I think Mike's collection of memorabilia is growing over there.
Yeah,
I'm just looking.
Sure.
My vision is now filled with this hat that says "Things are as bad as they seem," and I don't know.
You're right, Lawrence Nichols.
Are we here to prove that, Ron Hawkins, or are we here to disprove that?
Well, I think the truth is over there. So
somewhere, yes. Yeah.
The killer goalie mask is still here. That's the important part.
Yeah, that's the important
for
part.
me.
Yeah. Wow. The things
it's good to be back
in Mike's basement. Mike's basement is getting more and more crowded all the time. Is this vinyl rack new?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Went up during the Christmas break.
Yeah, when you say something, I would have. We would have brought some vinyl to cover over that tragically hip.
Well,
is that lasagna box staple to the wall?
Is that a Don Smith production?
That's a Don Smith production. Yes, it is.
Okay, I've heard stories.
We got stuff in common.
Should I hit the theme? I'm waiting for I don't want to interrupt the flow of genius from you two gentlemen.
I kind of feel like you just did, but so here we go.
I feel like you just did. Can we get off black cars already? I'm in Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love. Welcome to episode 1882 of Toronto Mic'd, an award-winning podcast proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online at greatlakesbeer.com for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Visit palmapasta.com for more. Fusion Corp's own Nick Iones. He's the host of Building Toronto Skyline. And Mike and Nick, two podcasts that you ought to listen to. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, making their return to Toronto Mic'd, it's Lawrence Nichols and Ron Hawkins from Lowest of the Low.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one of those. Hold on. There you are. There's a little something.
Wow.
Woo, I'm all set here.
Thanks for having us back, Mike. It's nice to be here.
It's been too long. Yeah. I love it when you guys visit. This means a lot to me.
And to us. This is great.
We love to come back. Usually we come back in a new record cycle, but we don't have a new record cycle this year. We have an old record cycle.
And we're back here anyway, and thank you. That's really nice.
Well, the first question I'm going to ask right off the top may help us segue into what old album cycle we're talking about. So this message came in when I said you guys were coming over. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read it. It says, "Hey, Mike," that's me. "My question request for Lowest of the Low." And this, I'm going to read this, except we all know what's going to happen because I've been to 100 Low shows, but I'm going to read it. "My request for Lowest of the Low, please don't play Rosie and Gray too early in their May 9th concert. It'll make FOTMs in the audience think the concert is over." That's from Miriam. Because, of course, I close every episode of this podcast with Rosie and Gray.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's free to leave if she really wants to, but you know, we'd prefer it if she'd stick around. You know, I hear what she's saying. It's going to be weird for us to play that song. Sorry, Miriam, but early in the evening and resist the urge to walk off stage.
Because it's the fifth song on the album, right?
Yeah.
And tell
just
us,
because it's the end of Mike's show doesn't mean it's the end of our show.
You can't break. Well, why don't you guys tell us what is going on? What concert is Miriam talking about? What is this old album cycle? And then I'll ask you a bunch of annoying questions. But what is Miriam talking about?
There was an album released in 1991 called Shakespeare My Butt. And some young, impressionable lads went out on the road and played it across this country 1 million times. And it did quite well for us. And was, hailed as an indie groundbreaker. Which was not our intention when we first made it. We wanted to get signed by a record label, but they all said no. So we made it an indie phenomenon instead. And now it's 35 years later, and we're out supporting the 35th anniversary.
Still reluctantly independent.
Well, you had a moment where you signed with a major.
Yeah.
Warner, right? Because of the punk rock president.
Yeah, because of Steve Kane. Partially because they, I don't know if they approached us. Maybe Steve Kane and I might have been jawing about some stuff, and then Steve mentioned a box set, and I was like, a box set?
Right.
What are we dead? You know, what's going on? Is it a memorial? You know, has the band broken up again? And so he kind of put the bug in my ear, I think, and then it was like, well, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Warner, because it's Steve's idea, and then we decided to cheekily join forces. In fact, I wrote a letter to Steve. Steve asked me to write a letter about, you know, to put on the socials about how we were
selling out,
getting together, and I wrote this thing that said something about, you know, after 30 years of bloodthirsty war between lowest of the low and the corporations, you know, lowest of the low has accepted Warner's unconditional surrender, and I wrote it as a joke, right? Because I thought Steve Kane will laugh, and then he'll go, okay, cool, now send the real one, right? And of course, because he's the punk rock president, I sent that, and he was like, this is perfect. We're going to put this out, you know?
Yeah.
So it was very us, and it was very him. I don't know if the rest of Warner's bean counters thought it was funny,
but you're back to fiercely independence.
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to go back in the time machine, but can I understand what is happening on May 9th? What concert is Miriam attending?
Miriam will be attending, that sounds like the Danforth Music Hall in Toronto, where we will be performing the album Shakespeare My Butt in order.
Well, that tells me the fifth song of the night is going to be Rosie and Gray.
Yeah, there's spoilers aplenty. All they have to do is look at the back of the record or the CD or, you know, whatever streaming service they use, and they will see our set list sitting there.
Okay, so wait, let me understand this, because I've told you guys many, many times, one of my favorite albums, forget Canadian, forget Toronto, one of my favorite albums of all time is Shakespeare My Butt.
Oh.
And I revisited it recently, and I'm like, I still love it, firstly, but I also, maybe more than ever, appreciate the locality of it all, like references to places I can see and touch in the city. Like, it feels very, very, very Toronto, and I appreciate it today more than ever. Oh, yeah, you have fist bump there. Okay. But okay, so there's 17 tracks, and we're going to get into this, but there's 17 tracks on Shakespeare My Butt. You can't break format and just skip Rosie and Gray in its fifth spot and close with it.
Well, in fact, in very lowest of the low form, in a rehearsal, this became quite a discussion because there were other suggestions. First of all, you're talking to the two guys, I believe, when the whole idea of the 35th came up, you know, because of the way the album cycles are these days, it was like, well, you guys can either make a new record this year or you can go out and celebrate Lowest of the Low or Shakespeare My Butt.
Right.
And so I think Lawrence and I might have been the two guys who put up our hands and said, new record, because we're always kind of pushing forward. And then, you know, I think probably saner minds, you know, went out and said, guys, it's 35 years. We should probably go out and celebrate this record. So, and we did. And I have to say, we had a rehearsal on Monday, and I was riding these waves of pride and excitement about how excited I am to be doing it. I'm actually surprised. Not that I didn't think it would be fun, but just I didn't think it would be as touching and as fun as I think it's going to be. So.
Well, I'm psyched about it. This is going to be amazing, and I got a million questions.
Oh, but
here
sorry, but I was just going to say too that we did have some discussions about putting other songs into the set with it, you know, breaking up the set, you know, and then it was like, well, no, if we're doing the record, we should do the record, you know.
Are you aware the cassette has fewer songs than the CD?
Yes.
You know, yes. We did have a discussion about if any of these shows don't sell out, we'll do cassette night, which will be 2 songs shorter.
Which 2 songs?
Kind of the Lonely One and Letter from Bilbao were not on the cassette.
So why is that?
Because the cassette wasn't long enough.
I think technology.
Technology. I guess it was on a Maxell XL260 or something. It needed to fit 60
speed.
minutes. Yeah, and the album's 64 minutes. Without.
Yeah, we wrote too much, basically.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have written so much.
Okay, so 35 years of Shakespeare My Butt. I can't believe that. And this sounds amazing. You're going to tour the 35th anniversary special here. I'm hoping you'll do it again for the 40th anniversary of Shakespeare My Butt.
Can I just say, were those 2 songs left off because they're the shortest songs? I kind of think they are, aren't they? Letter from Bilbao and Kind of the Lonely One are both very short, so that's probably why they got the chop. Probably wasn't. Okay, anyway, sorry.
No, I like, this is what I like. So, because yesterday I had an episode where we went back 100 years. Yeah. We went back to 1926. Like, I played music from 1926, and we dove deep into the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball club that won the Junior World Series in 1926.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, actually.
Wow.
you know. But now I'm thinking, can we go back, like maybe, I don't know, 1990, 91? Maybe we go back, and I know we've covered this quite a bit, but I would like to revisit maybe for the definitive record here on Toronto Mike, because I'm a natural born archivist here, but I want to go back to how Popular Front becomes Lowest of the Low, and like, what is the difference between these two bands?
Well, at the risk of going farther back,
you can go farther back. You're Ron Hawkins, for goodness sakes.
David and I were started in a band called Social Insecurity in 1983, and that only lasted from 83 to 84. But it was a very the mission statement was very clear. It was a very political band. It was a sort of a punk rock band, for lack of a better word. But we also did sort of new wavy stuff and reggae and ska and stuff like that. It was a grab bag, but mostly, an angry kind of punk rock teen band. And so Dave and I were in that band with our good friend Ken. And when that band blew up, we became Popular Front. So as I say, Social Insecurity, very clear mission statement as to who we were, what we did. And then we became Popular Front, and David and I sort of wandered around a little bit with a couple of songs. Then we met up with, I think Dave introduced me to Stephen Stanley, and Steve joined the band. And so we were the three of us were the core of the band, and then it would grow, expand, and contract depending, because sometimes it was 5-piece, sometimes it was an 8-piece, like we had Latin percussion and horns and different things. But I feel like the early part of Popular Front was kind of the wilderness years. We were kind of a little lost. We didn't have the same kind of clarity as to what we were about. And, the good side of that is we experimented with a lot of things. I think I was telling Lawrence the other day, like if I had to nail it down, I would say it was a bit like a harder edged Tears for Fears, with some 80s stuff and some, and then some world beat stuff in there, vibe. It was just, again, a bit of a grab bag, but it, I was trying a whole bunch of things, and I was trying to write big themed songs about issues of the day, big global issues of the day, like a lot of bands were, like U2 and, all those kind of bands. So we were a bit lost, and our haircuts would show you that we were a bit lost. And then toward the end of the 80s, like I would say 88, 89, we wrote a few songs that if you heard them, you would go, well, I can see Lowest of the Low coming, along the road. So, and Lawrence has made a very extensive list that he's posted about what songs are older that we've brought back. And so there's the wilderness years of Popular Front, and then there's the last tight little years at the end where we were writing stuff that was going to be Lowest of the Low and actually wound up on Lowest of the Low records, but we had no crowd, we were spinning our wheels. And then there's a kind of a famous story of me driving Dave home from a gig at Strattinger's, which is in the East End of Toronto. And I think we played To My Girlfriend, and we were so crestfallen. And I pulled up to Dave's house, and Dave just looked at me and said, we should just pack it in. And we were very, very close to packing in. And I just had one of those moments, not typical of me to be as level-headed as I was, but I said, why don't we sleep on this? This is not a decision we should make tonight. And we didn't make that decision tonight. And the next day it seemed like we had a little distance from it. And then, so we didn't break up, but we were, clear that a change had to come. Right. And then, so some of those songs were still being played. I think 2 songs, I think Bloodline and Taming of Carolyn were at that very end of Popular Front and went on Shakespeare My Butt. And then, we just retooled a little bit. And then I don't know when this happened, but I sort of took the classic adage of write what you know. Somehow I suddenly learned that and started writing a song about, maybe the only cafe or something, some place that we would hang out, or a friend, a story that I knew about a friend. And then suddenly at our shows, that stuff kind of took off, and it was really resonant with people. And I was like, oh, these old professors are not wrong. Like if you write about things that mean something to you, they will resonate with other people. And then, but the thing I did not know, which was that the more of a magnifying glass you put on it, the more personal it gets, the more universal it seems to resonate, which seems counterintuitive, but that started happening. And so then Dave likes to joke that we were the first people to rebrand, because really the first bit of Lowest of the Low was kind of the end bit of Popular Front. It was still me and Steve and Dave. Mm-hmm. And then we started playing open mic places like the Free Times Cafe as a sort of a folk unit, sort of a punky folk unit. What was it? Sarcastic power folk or whatever we were calling ourselves. Yeah.
Is this like 1990?
Yeah, by then it's late 1990, 1991. I met Lawrence in late 1990.
I can tell you that, but at the end of 1990, it was December 1990 where we met, where we played a show together at Lee's Palace. And at that point, they had a lot of those songs were there. It was early the next year that you asked the bass player in the band I was playing in, John Arnott, to join your band, and they gave him a tape, which was it was generally called the kitchen tape now, I think. And so it was Dave and Ron and Steve in someone's kitchen,
My kitchen.
just playing their folky punky folky trio versions of a lot of the songs that are on Shakespeare My Butt now. And of course, we all got John to make us copies so we could take it home and listen to it. And I thought that was just absolutely amazing. But it very much was what was coming down the pipe at Shakespeare My Butt.
Do you have a copy of this tape?
I lost my copy of the tape.
So does anybody have a copy of
That's,
this?
You know who has a copy of the
That's
tape?
band speak for like we don't want anyone to hear it. I lost my copy.
No, I did lose my copy. The girl I was dating at the time still has a copy. She lives in Collingwood.
Oh, and what's her name again? I need to, get my hands on this thing.
She sent me a photograph of it.
No, but she's way in Collingwood and stuff,
in
so we
Collingwood,
couldn't
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Actually, we took it. I don't know what year we did this, but we decided maybe it was for the box set. We took the kitchen tapes into Joa Carvalho's mastering place and working with a friend, our friend Tim, and with the intention like, oh, we remaster, because in a lot of people's mind, and even in musicians' mind who should know better, this idea like, well, we'll remaster it, which means it's going to go from sounding like crap to sounding like Sgt. Pepper. And, you get it in there. And then at some point, Tim just turned around and he said, what do you want me to do with this? Because it was recorded on a 4-track,
right.
in my kitchen.
I can imagine.
And it does not sound good. But, and also for some reason it sounds very fast. I don't know if I had the,
it depends.
Speed switch in the wrong.
Some of those machines just played at the wrong speed.
Also, I think because I actually it's funny because it was Fred Patterson from Humble and Fred gave me a bunch of tapes and they're like circa 1989, 1990, and I was ripping them to MP3 and they all seemed a little sped up too. I don't know if that's like how cassettes age. Maybe is that possible? Is that possible?
But there was a cassette duplication place in Toronto. I have to tell you that their machine played too slow, which means that when you played it back on your regular machine, it sped it up.
Okay.
And I think a lot of 90s bands are slightly tuned up. That's a possibility. This is a theory I've been working on.
You're speculating, but it's,
you know what I did? What I had to do, Mike, because I'm such a nerd about these things. When I decided to digitize some of my indie 90s cassettes, I had to go to Long and McQuaid and rent one of those proper cassette machines that you could adjust the speed because I had to get them all in tune because they were all playing too fast.
If I can underline what a nerd Lawrence is, I asked a friend of Lawrence's, I said, so then he can just throw the cassettes out, he'll have them digitized. Oh, no. Those cassettes go into a storage unit.
Well, I know a curator at the Art Gallery of Ontario, I feel like there should be some, 90s Toronto indie rock exhibit.
I might be biased, but I think it was a great time. I think it was a really good time for music in the city. And, it probably still is.
People tell me it was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you can remember it, Lawrence, you weren't there.
That's right. Yeah. I remember not being there. Like, totally.
Yeah. They've got the Punk Rock Museum where's it at, in Las Vegas? A friend of ours from the Cadillac Tramps, Johnny Two Bags, he does he's a tour guide there. And they say that all the other tour guides' tours are like 45 minutes. His are apparently like almost 2 hours. Everybody's like, come on, Johnny, tighten it up a bit. But yeah, that would be kind of a cool to have like a little 90s museum.
100%. Get that Paul McCartney photography thing out of there and let's move in. Let's move in the 90s Queen Street, whatever.
He's had his 15 minutes, that guy.
Seriously. So, okay. So Popular Front becoming Lois and Low is kind of a rebrand, it sounds like.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, unless you consider, there was a seismic shift in the writing style.
Well, tell me about that because I'd love to know how you approach the writing of Shakespeare My Butt, since this is like a Shakespeare My Butt deep dive here.
Yeah, some of this will sound like, ridiculous romantic pulp fiction, but I think it was clear to me that when I was writing those kind of big global, not that I didn't have information and not that I wasn't a lifelong activist since I was 16 and political person and stuff like that. Like I was aware and I knew the nuts and bolts of the things that were going on, but they weren't things happening to me and they weren't things in my neighborhood. So I think on some level I was aware that I was being somewhat inauthentic or there was an inauthenticness to trying to do that thing I was doing. And then, so a confluence of things happened, which was that my long-term relationship, 8-year relationship that I sing about in Rosie and Gray, broke up in 1991. And I was having, I guess, this epiphany that I was writing things that I didn't particularly know about. And the universe was telling us by nobody coming to our shows that what we were doing was failing. So I think all those things came together, and I moved into a little punk rock room in a house that I shared with a guy who was kind of a little bit of a mentor to me, or an older punk rock dude. He came from the Ottawa punk scene from way back in the day, and was in a band called the Restless Virgins. But when I knew him in Toronto, he was in a band called Human Interest, and they were a fantastic band. They kind of mixed. It was a very pop, sort of pop punky thing. And so I moved in with him, and he was a big influence on me. And I think I was telling you that we would have these, though I was paying $275 a month or something for this room in this kind of punk squat, still for some reason we didn't have money for rent. So we would have these rent parties on the weekend, which we would go poster the clubs and say, hey, come back after hours. It's illegal, whatever, but come to our house. We've got alcohol, blah, blah, blah. We would have these parties. And so members of the Kids in the Hall like Scott was always there. Kevin McDonald was always there. Molly Johnson was there sometimes. Like a lot of, local luminaries would show up there. And, so that was very romantic. And I was kind of suddenly outside. I didn't have a job for the first time in my life. And I was outside of the world of 9 to 5. My relationship had broken up. So I was newly single, and I was out being a musician and, meeting people. And I would walk around the city with a little notebook in my backpack. So, and then I would sit with Lawrence Nichols at Future Bakery on Bloor Street for countless hours, drinking probably 14 coffees. I don't know how we managed to do that.
Were they free refills, or did we just?
They had to be.
We must have just treated it that way.
They had to be free refills, or we were stealing them. But I just meant like our nervous systems. I don't know how our nervous systems handled that. But so all of that together, it was like I was saying, like almost like the universe said to me, "Here you go, kid. If you can't make a great record out of this, then you should just hang up your pens." So I mean, I was just thrust into a very romantic situation, and and then if you tie that together with what was going on in the city, which was other people were having that experience. There was a great institution called 102.1, The Edge, who were willing to take a risk on local bands and book you would play things. I mean, you just had a sort of a perfect storm of romance and energy, and it was a very exciting time. This will all be in the museum. I mean,
so I have questions about that and the role of CFNY and the late great Dave Bookman here, but what was he playing? Like, is he playing Shakespeare My Butt, or does he have access to demo tapes that maybe weren't necessarily going to be the final product?
It would be Shakespeare My Butt.
It would, but they, what they did on Live in Toronto one time, they did somehow unearth.
Kim Hughes? Is this Kim Hughes?
It would have been the Kim Hugheser, I think. Maybe it was before
in the early
Shakespeare
90s,
came
it's
out,
Kim
so
Hughes.
it would have been 1991, but early in 1991. There was a show that you were playing, maybe at Lee's Palace or something, and Live in Toronto found a demo version of The Taming of Carolyn and played it on the air, and it was it was much slower than the final version eventually. But yeah, but they were so desperate. The band, I mean, you guys managed to blow up without any radio play, like just as a local phenomenon. And you were so popular that they were absolutely desperate to play you on the radio. They were like, "We're going to play anything of yours we can find on the radio." And that, what kind of support is that? That's amazing that they were.
And if you sprinkle in, like, Lawrence wasn't in the Lowest of the Low at that point, but somebody was Lawrence in the Low at that point? And I'm like, well, no, Lawrence was a friend of the band who jumped up with the band. I'm like, but he jumped up 250 times a year. Like, like we just moved in a circle of people. Yeah. Like I tell my daughter now, like it's interesting that I have, a couple of friends from high school. I have a couple of friends here and there. But in 1991, I met like 20 people that are all still very, very close friends because this explosion happened and we were just in each other's pockets the entire time. Mm-hmm. And playing, like messing around with each other's bands and sort of like, poaching their bass player. And
but everybody played a lot more too back then. There were those nights at the Blue Moon Saloon on Bloor Street that were Thursday to Sunday. There were 4 nights, 4 sets a night. And I went by to see Lowest to the Low play. When I was on a date, actually, when I got there, and they're like, "Nah, you can't come in. It's too full." I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And then they started playing a song that I wrote, and I'm standing outside the club watching you play because they, you had to play 4 sets a night. They were doing all sorts of covers they wouldn't ordinarily do, and I was just sitting, oh, okay, yeah, this, in a way, it's like, well, this sucks, but also it's like, this is a great time to be alive. Like, what on earth is going on here? Is this real life?
I'm sure you didn't have that epiphany though. You were probably probably soul searching and
probably. I probably went home and wrote it down and some sort of agonizing
deep angst.
Did you say to your date, "I wrote this song"?
I'd like to say, oh no, I just said, hey, that sounds good. But no,
what a great song. It doesn't. I don't like it.
I probably, yeah, you know. I honestly don't remember, but I probably did. I was like,
she said, "It's
how do you resist?
Kitchen tapes."
Yeah, no, it's like adding to my frustration.
I don't know how you could. I think no matter, even if you're Elton John, I'm thinking if you hear your song on the radio, you're like, that's me singing. Like, it doesn't matter how big you are, right? I don't know if you encounter it in the wild or whatever. Okay, so CFNY has Shakespeare My Butt. Yeah. We're gonna get to CFY because I still want to hear a little how the Shakespeare My Butt sausage is made here. Okay, so who produced Shakespeare My Butt?
A good friend of ours, Andy Koyama, who was working as a film mixer. He mixed sound for film. An interesting story about Andy is Steve knew him long before we knew him because Steven and Andy and Andy's band, Andy's brother Gord, were in a band called Four on the Floor back in the 80s. And Steve...
Wait, band or like comedy troupe?
No, band.
Okay, because there's a comedy troupe called Four on the Floor.
And Steve, they are a bit of a comedy troupe when Steve tells you that he said they would rehearse like on the weekend, and he said every Sunday they would rehearse, and he said every Sunday Steve Stanley and the other guy who wasn't Andy or Gord in the band would pack up their gear, halfway through a rehearsal because Andy and Gord, his brother, would get in a argument, which would become a fist fight. And he said, like, to the point where they would, like, tables would be getting knocked over and lamps would be getting broken. And Steven and the other guy would just go, okay. And then just, I guess, put their guitars away and just sort of back out of the room. And so that was Andy. I mean, and by the time we met Andy, he was very, very peaceful, and his brother Gord is a lovely man. But so Andy was working at Film House, which was downtown at the time. And I don't know how it happened, but he approached us. We did a demo with him at Comfort Sound. He was working at Comfort Sound for a while. We did a demo for Salesman and Fatalist with him, and then that turned out to be like, hey, we should demo all the songs for the record that you want to shop around. And we did that. We went to Metalworks to do the drums because we thought, you got to go to a real studio to do drums, and so we did that. And then everything else was done at Film House in a Foley booth, which is about as big as your podcasting room here. And we were like literally back in the day when they would have gravel and they would have broken glass, and so that people would walk in the gravel when they were recording gravel sounds. And so Lawrence and I would be in like straddling that to do, harmonica or vocals or whatever. And that's how we did it. And with the idea that we were going to shop that demo around and get signed to some label, because as indie as we are, and as much as I think even then we realized that was probably where our home was, we still were young and sort of thought, real bands get signed. Like The Clash was on Epic, we could be on a label.
But this sounds interesting to me, knowing about the corporate rock sucks t-shirts and all that. Like it doesn't jive.
Well,
maybe it does.
I mean, it doesn't jive, and it's like I think we were under a false impression when we were shopping it around, because I think that would have been a mistake, and I think it would have been a mess. And it's a way better story that we got turned down by everybody and then went out and made it a real thing anyway, right, on our own. And then they came crawling back like they do, and said, "Oh, well, maybe it's we didn't really mean no, we meant later."
Okay, so you record Shakespeare My Butt, and you've told us now like who produced it, where you produced it. Tell me a little bit about the role of Page Productions.
Do you know more about that, Lawrence, than I do? I mean, I know that Stephen Page's dad,
Victor Page. I mean, I believe it was something that was put together primarily to distribute the yellow tape that the Bare Naked Ladies made. And I could be wrong about this, but I think one of the next big indie explosions was probably Shakespeare My Butt, wasn't it? Why do I think it's the other way around? Why do I think Shakespeare My Butt goes first, becomes the biggest selling independent release in the country, and then the yellow tape beats that record?
I think it's like Friday, Saturday. Like I think it was all happening at the same time, because I remember we would be playing Sneaky D's, and then they would be playing Sneaky D's, and I think we were.
I think you hold the wreck. I mean, I think there's a very short. It's very brief, but there's a period of time when Shakespeare My Butt is the best-selling independent release in Canadian history. Like, I believe that to be
We
true.
still tell people that.
Well, I believe that to be true. So you're no lie there. Tell no lies, as
it
the
definitely was
Spoons
true
would
at
sing.
some point.
So that means it goes first because the record is broken very shortly thereafter by the yellow tape,
Right. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
which tells you, and this is in the great, I got to recommend, shout out to Simon Head. I thoroughly enjoyed Simon's Subversives documentary, and I urge all Low fans and all music fans to check it out. I had a copy. I was looking over here. I don't know where it is. Like, I had that DVD on display somewhere here, and I have no idea where
There's
it
a
is.
lot of stuff over
There's
there.
a lot of junk.
Yeah.
I'm going to go rifle through this again
It's
when I
probably
play a
behind
song.
that Tragically Hip album. It's
But they
probably
talk
where it
to, yeah, well, no, you know what I think is behind the Blue Jays 45. I got to check it in a second.
okay.
But basically, there is a moment in time where it appears as if Stephen Page's dad, with help from Stephen Page's brother, it almost looks like they've got the magic ear. Like, they seem to know what's cooking because they release both Shakespeare My Butt and the Yellow Tape, which became the two biggest independent releases in Canadian history.
Well,
But of course they did. It was just a
yeah, but you
happenstance.
know what? Well, if you believe in karma and however you might believe it, Stephen Page's dad, Victor.
Victor.
Sorry, Victor Page.
Victor Page.
You know, in his defense, he loves music, and he also said right from day one, like, guys, I just want to be a conduit, and if something comes along and it helps you move into a bigger arena,
Right.
there's not gonna be a sunset clause. There's not gonna be a blah blah blah. You know, so I don't fully believe in manifestation, but I mean, like, things like that, you know, tend to be real sometimes in the world. Like, and I think that might be part of it, is that, you know, he was open to the idea of that kind of stuff.
Well, this begs the question. I've always been curious because you mentioned this explosion on CFNY. I do remember so many songs from Shakespeare My Butt getting heavy rotation on CFNY in 91, 92 there. And I also remember the similar Bare Naked Ladies explosion on CFNY. I mean, they were playing this crappy cover. I'm not that the song was crappy, but the recording was kind of crappy. This I Fell in Love with a McDonald's Girl. Do you guys know this song? So that's not a Bare Naked Ladies song, but they covered it live and someone recorded it, and it was getting spun a lot.
really?
On, McDonald's Girl. So they were like, you know, they had the Yellow Tape, and they were before Gordon. They were really
Well, that's the thing about the Edge, right? That's the dream, which is that it's like a college radio station with, you know, a much bigger tower, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So in that little window, that beautiful little window, it was like they could do all the great things that college radio does, but they could do it on such a scale.
They were really, really, really into it. They were like, we want to play you this stuff, and we're gonna play you this goofy cover live version of a song that we've got a copy of. I don't think, did they ever release that? Like the
McDonald's Girl? No.
But there it was. I know I have it on a tape somewhere.
Yeah, there's a live recording.
Was it
maybe
too goofy
the
for the
Rivoli
Bare
or
Naked
something?
Ladies?
That's impossible.
don't know.
But here's my question, my big question
Okay.
here. What do you guys think of the Bare Naked Ladies?
Oh, those are guys to me who absolutely did it right. Now I played in a band. It was the Pale Criminal. It was the band that I was playing with at Lee's Palace the night I met Ron. That was the Pale Criminal, and John Arnott was the bass player. I remember probably a year and a half before that, we played at Sneaky D's on like a Tuesday night, and the opening band was this little gangly collection of dudes from Scarborough called the Bare Naked Ladies, and we were all like, they're never going anywhere with a name like that. And we saw the proto Bare Naked Ladies, and I kind of sat there and thought, this is a bit of a mess, but it's also kind of great. And then, you know, we ended up, you know, in the same circles as them a lot. And I know that they were doing all the right things, that they were making plans from day one. They had it all put together. They had their sound, they had their stage show, and they were making plans like financially. They were putting aside a lot of money. You know, they were playing all the time. They were putting aside the money and saying, no, we got the sights set on the world. And then they
did it.
They did it. They absolutely did it. And total respect for that. And I also heard Stephen Page just, you know, I think he was probably pretty self-assured at the time. I think he knew he was onto a good thing. And I remember reading, I think in Now Magazine, that he had started a correspondence with Howard Jones, and he was started to write Howard Jones letters. And I guess they were so noteworthy that Howard Jones actually started writing back, and, you know, and Stephen Page was saying, oh, you're going to hear about me soon. Don't worry. You know?
Well, let me bring up another name. We've already mentioned him. but Bookie, because Bookie would play before. I think this is before like Tyler Stewart's even in the band, like when it's just sort of like an Ed and Steven thing, I think. But on CKLN, I think it was, Bookie would play Brian Wilson, which is like a Stephen, which is
That's
like
a
a
great
big,
song.
which is really Stephen Page. He wrote it, he sings it, it's his baby. It'll be, attributed to Bare Naked Ladies, but Stephen Page song. So, I mean, the role of Bookie in both bands, both Toronto bands at the same time, breaking huge in the GTA. Like there are a lot of parallels.
Not just the two of us, like countless bands.
Yeah.
And the thing too is like it isn't a one-way street in terms of like, I think part of the reason they were so excited to do that was because for whatever reason there was such a bubbling energy in the street, at that time. I mean, in Toronto, if you look back, I remember the early 80s and there was a hell of a lot going on then too. L'Étranger and, Alta Moda and Parachute Club started and all that kind of stuff. Like there was a scene.
Didn't CFMI start playing Breeding Ground a lot when they put out Tales of Adventure, I think, and that would have been like 88 maybe or something like that. And that started to get on the radio a bit too. And it really, I think it sort of woke people up to the fact that music that was not sanctioned by a major label wasn't necessarily too weird to listen to. It was stuff that you could really like and really enjoy. It was just
and then the key is local too, right? Like is that not only that, but you can be from Toronto and still be cool. You don't have to be from New York, you don't have to be from London, and so that's those things are major points, and the door opens, and I think it's a matter of a few integral people, and then you get Strombo in there shortly thereafter. And, he and I had a laugh because he was on a podcast. I heard him talking about on Graven's podcast.
Oh, yeah, I've been on there.
And Graven said, Ron's a really nice guy, but he's like, when I first met him, I thought he hated me. And George goes, yeah, the first time I met him, I interviewed him and I had, Kim Hughes had just left and he said Ron showed up in a handmade T-shirt that said reinstate Kim Hughes, right? And so George took that personally, and he said, and then Ron was very clear that it wasn't aimed at me; it was aimed at. He said, but like I was 20 years old, or he's like, I thought, fuck, this guy hates me, right? And so we had a laugh about that, but like, there's just such a clutch of characters, and then you throw Steve Kane in there, like punk rock president at Warner, and it's like, there was a time where people were making decisions that weren't necessarily the smartest for the bottom line, and it wasn't even the smartest for their careers, in quotes, and that's why I think Lois the Low slotted really nicely in there, because we made lots of decisions that to the unaided eye look pretty stupid and pretty self-destructive, but now we're celebrating 35 years. I look back all of it and I'm going, I wouldn't change a single thing, because we don't belong here. We don't belong in this industry. We don't belong in this society. But we're here and we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to be us, And sometimes people do it, and it's that little window at CFMY, or it's us, or it's other bands like us. And, and then sometimes we're now, in a dearth of that, where it's like, you look around and it's like, can I look at something that's authentic? Everything seems completely constructed and manufactured. And
no, absolutely. I think I read somewhere.
Did I throw you, Mike?
I was going somewhere, and then you kept going, and then I forgot where I was going. But I did read somewhere, to get back on track here. I did read somewhere that you didn't like how Shakespeare My Butt sounded, like sonically.
Oh no,
is that true, or was it true?
I mean, I'm of two minds, because I had an email with Andy. Andy, I think I said it in the doc, right? Like, when I think the way I said it was that it's funny that our most successful record sort of is the least well produced or whatever, right? Like that, yeah. And of course, Andy produced it, and it wasn't a slight on Andy. It was like we were all kids. Andy was new to it, and Andy was making a rock record in a film overdubbing. It wasn't the greatest scenario. We had no money.
What was the budget for Shakespeare?
The budget was zero. The budget was less than zero.
Yeah.
I think Andy might have, bought dinner a couple of times. Like literally, Andy has never been paid a nickel.
This is the greatest value in the history of music.
The tapes that Shakespeare was recorded on were recycled dialogue reels from television shows or movies, right? Like,
Yeah, so I listened to it, and it's like, well, of course, it's Shakespeare My Butt. It's an iconic record in our catalog. But I mean, a lot of the things too have to do with like Steven and I don't know. It's like, did they speed up our voices? Like we sound like little kids. And I take a great deal of responsibility for the things I don't like about the record is that I'm now been singing for 30 more years. Like I hear the delivery of some of those vocals, they're so incredibly straight. There's places that I swing those vocals now that I didn't swing them then, didn't know how to do that. And, so a lot of it has nothing to do with the production itself. But so I felt bad, and I told Andy, like, oh, please, like, I'm not saying that that we all did a bad job or that you did a bad job.
This is like the T-shirt you wore on Live in Toronto. It's like, no offense to Strombo. It's a pro is you.
Exactly. The other thing too is that
so many misunderstandings.
I just hate things, but it might not be you. Yeah.
I really hate myself. No, and I think part of it is that it wasn't mastered the way other albums were mastered. So if you heard it on The Edge, it was hilarious because you would hear, I don't know who, like let's say Moist or whoever, and and it would be like a certain volume, and then a low song would come up and it would just drop in volume because
interesting.
There were the loudness wars were happening, and when we just it wasn't mastered the same level. So there's a lot of reasons. It sounds very ragtag, but anytime we've talked about it, Greg talks about the Replacements remastering, and they've done remixing and stuff like that. And he's like, for anybody who's a fan, they're like, you release that stuff, the new remixed or whatever, and they go, yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to listen to the original one because that's the record.
100%. On that note, why am I under the impression that CFNY was playing what you might have deemed demos, and then you come to a conclusion that those are now the songs because that's what everybody knows and love? Why am I under this impression? Like, is that complete
think it's what
BS?
You're saying. Like Shakespeare My Butt was. You thought you were recording demos.
Okay,
right?
so like maybe that's the disconnect here. Okay, so the album that's celebrating 35 years, the album we know as Shakespeare My Butt, this gem of an album, it wasn't intended to be the final.
Well,
album?
It's not like it wasn't intended to be the final album. It was like like separate from what Lawrence is saying about the Bare Naked Ladies or Stephen Page, is that there was no plan, and to this day there's not really a plan. Like we don't have a 5-month plan. We don't have a 5-year plan. Like we don't have a plan. We basically fly by the seat of our pants, and we did then too. And I think Andy offered us this opportunity. I think we thought, well, hey, that'll be cool because we'll have all these songs that we can then shop to labels. And then I think because that went nowhere, we were like, well, we can just pack it in, or we can do it ourselves, right? And I think all of this, we were just growing into this. Yeah, screw it, man. Like we'll just do it ourselves, and we made, and then we made those. Like we almost didn't make CDs because we were kind of thinking like our CD's gonna last. We'll make cassettes, and of course we weren't making vinyl because that was just dying.
Right.
And so, but we decided, like Nostradamus, we'll make CDs, and we made CDs, and then I think John Brooks said he feels like he sold 7,000 of them off the merch table, over a period of time or whatever. So they were just flying like hotcakes, and that thing happened that you cannot plan, and you can't, like lightning in a bottle or whatever. Like it just happened, and then it just had its own wheels. And then after that is when we got involved as much as we ever did in the industry itself. And and then that was a disappointment on some levels because we got to learn, like when we talk about Lawrence and I meeting, and we just moved in this cool community of weirdos and freaks and geeks, and they were just people who loved music, and they came out, and it was people of all walks of life. And then we got, some singles on the radio and everything, and then Universal started talking to us for Hallucigenia, and then suddenly, there was a lot of backward baseball caps at our shows, and we were just like, suddenly the crowd got a little more homogenous and less cool. And then, and it was, I had to do the learning curve that Kurt Cobain had to do, and a whole bunch of people had to do, like, what are we doing that's drawing these people? It must be something that we're doing. And then you find out, no, this is the nature of mass consumption, is that once it's a thing out there in the world, you can't control who's coming to your shows.
Right. Well, it's that line in Coax Me, it's not the band I hate, it's their fans.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get to see that firsthand, and it's real, like the struggle is real, because we joke about, like, we used to stop shows and throw people out a lot, have people thrown out because they were just jackasses being a nuisance up front. We never had that before. We never ever had that before. Yeah,
interesting points. Now, when I look at Shakespeare My Butt's playlist, so there's 17 songs, right? So are they, Bloodline is attributed to Stephen Stanley, but like, is every other song a Ron Hawkins composition?
Yeah, like it's funny because there's been a real mythology built up that like Steve and I are like Lennon and McCartney, or Jones and Strummer or whatever, but that's not the case. I mean, like what usually happened is I would write a song, bring it into the band, and then the band would arrange it.
Right.
Steve would bring in a song, and then the band would arrange it. And the arrangement process is very important, and that's what turns it into a Lows to the Low song, and still does to this day. But the lion's share of the writing would happen outside of there.
Yeah, I think you're right about that misconception. So I'm glad you're.
It's it's a romantic misconception. If you have to have a misconception, that's a pretty fun one to have. But
true that. So it sounded like you had to go to 15 songs for the cassette because of technical limitations and stuff. I'm wondering, like, how many songs were recorded for Shakespeare My Butt but did not end up on Shakespeare My Butt?
Well, none actually.
It can't be none. Like, don't I have one in my possession? Or
no, you see, but that wasn't recorded for Shakespeare.
Okay.
But that song
existed.
It existed, and remember the kitchen tape.
Right.
Not every song on the kitchen tape ended up on Shakespeare My Butt because the kitchen tape didn't have Rosie and Gray. The kitchen tape. What else? It was Fatalist? I don't think Fatalist was there yet, was it? So like some of the stuff came later. But a lot of the stuff that was sort of like, right there at day one from sort of Lowest to the Low forming, some of those songs have now been recorded for the first time. Mike.
Okay, so elaborate.
I think, right,
okay,
yeah.
so I have, and this is huge for the low heads. I shouldn't call them low heads. The low fans
low
out
lives.
there. What do you call them? Low lives?
Low Lives.
Low lives.
Yep.
For the low lives listening, this is huge. Okay, so buckle up, settle in here. But I have in my possession a track called "Another Year in Limbo Town." So, in my understanding, it was not recorded in 1990 or 91, but it was written in 90 and 91 alongside all the other Shakespeare My Butt tracks. When did you just recorded it recently?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think at the end of last year.
End of last year at Union Sound here in Toronto.
And the whole point of that song, Another Year in Limbo Town, is I wrote it at the very end of Popular Front based on that Stradinger show, basically saying, do we pack it in? Can we spend another year in Limbo Town? Can we just do this and have our wheels spinning forever? Or
spoiler, yes, they can. Yeah, but the song doesn't know that yet, right? So,
and probably the funny thing is the way this works. Probably Another Year in Limbo Town was probably written closer to something like Under the Carlisle Bridge than Rosie and Gray was, because I think there was a little like Carolyn, and then maybe it was like, let's say it was Carlisle Bridge and a few of those songs up front. And then, into early 91, I had a giant spree of like maybe Rosie came and Bleed came and Henry came and, like boom, 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 a big clutch all of a sudden. But,
But that's a wave of creative, dare I say, genius that delivered these iconic songs. Like I obviously iconic Toronto songs, but I don't know how to. I struggle with. I'm doing this now with Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. Have you guys seen this yet?
I haven't.
Okay. You got to see it. Like they want to play the Rivoli, but this is all part of the show, and it's just the most Toronto thing ever. And I'm trying to think to myself, like, what would I think of this song if I were like born and raised in like Chicagoland or something? Like I don't have this ability. I don't know what my ears and my heart think about Shakespeare My Butt if I'm not born and raised in the.
Well, I can shed a little light on that, which is that when we wound up doing now sort of famous shows on our lore with Weddings, Parties, Anything from Australia, we did 2 nights. We opened for them first night. They opened for us the second night. They fell in love with our band, and they took. I learned this about Australians. They come to North America, they see a band, and they buy 7 CDs. They buy 10 CDs, and they give those CDs out to their friends when they go home if they really love it, right? I can't imagine doing that, but they do that. And so they took that record over there. And one of the things I love about art and music is that Mick much later told me that he said, in 93, you guys were going about your lives in North America. He's like, there was a bar in Melbourne. He said that every Saturday night, whatever locals were there and the staff, they would go lock the door, they would pull down the shade, and they would start Shakespeare My Butt, and they would sit and listen to the entire thing every weekend. And I'm like, I just love that I was going about my life, buying my groceries, doing my thing, whatever I was doing, and that was happening over there, right? And it's just such like, it blows my mind if I think about it too much, just how effective that can be.
But at the same time, Ron, because that's amazing, and great music is great music, great songs are great songs. But at the same time, it seems like you could look at a map of the world, and then whatever part of that map received the signal from 102.1, that created the vast majority of lowlifes. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
And then that's Buffalo, of course. Are you?
Well, I think that's due to access to it. But as I say, the Melbourne connection is an example of, because when I went there in 2008 to support those guys on a tour, or 2010. And we played, the Social Working Men's Club and whatever. And then when I walked in there, I was like, oh, this is the Rivoli, or we went to their local and had a beer and it was like, oh, this is the Only. Like, they have that stuff. So it's like you sing, this is what I learned about the make it as personal as you can. And then it becomes universal because everybody has a watering hole where they're like, I used to go to those ones where I get punched out every time. And then I found this one, place where people were reading books and they were playing chess and it's, and then that became my place, and it's like, well, that's the Only, right?
That's the Only. Fabian worked at the Only for many years and he's now at Great Lakes Brewery. So I'm going to just let you guys know I have fresh craft beer for you from Great Lakes Brewery.
Oh, sweet.
So shout out to Fabian from
Thanks,
the
Fabian.
Only. Absolutely. I once biked. It might have been kind of COVID-y times, but it was opened up enough that we were allowed to do this. But I biked in a blizzard from here to the Only to see Ron Hawkins.
Oh,
That's a song.
Yeah.
I have to write that
Write
song.
that song. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make that my closing theme here. Okay, so I'm wondering, with your permission, may I play Another Year in Limbo Town, which was
Absolutely
written
not.
that was. I'm
Because then I
pretty
would say
sure-
you teased me.
I'm pretty excited about this one because we're getting to record this finally. Because
Yeah.
I think that was the first song on the kitchen tape. Like if you put on, it's like, oh, this is that lowest to
Wow.
the,
I
popular
feel like
front, lowest to low band.
We're really in a time machine here.
And that was the first song. Was Another Year in Limbo Town, and it was either that or Armageddon Street. But anyway,
So 35 years ago, but what is the reason you didn't record it then?
I think, we have this.
Tough questions here on Toronto Mike.
Well, as you said, there's 17 songs on the record, and some stuff.
There was
just-
one
just
more.
did-
I don't know.
Well,
No, I think it was more a matter of like, because we were young and dumb and full of cum, we were, shit like this happened, which was like, that song was written like 4 months ago. Like,
yeah, maybe.
blow the dust off it if we're gonna,
Right.
like there was a real sense of urgency and like,
Ancient.
now.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then, the joke is like, so we waited 35 years to record it and put it on a record, like, and put it on the same record.
Interesting, because I know your favorite band of all time, the Tragically Hip.
What would they do in this scenario?
They had it. Well, they recorded a song that was left off Up to Here. It was recorded at the time of Up to Here, but it didn't make Up to Here because they had another song that was similar enough. They just preferred, called 38 Years Old, and then they only re-released this hip
was it
song
Get Back
last year.
Again?
Get Back Again, yeah.
Get Back Again,
So, but
okay.
that was written and recorded for Up to Here. So that means we're talking like 89, I guess. So, but this song I'm about to play, which is a mind blow, was written alongside all these great Shakespeare My Butt songs, but you did not record it.
No.
Because you had enough songs.
Because they were dumb.
You had enough songs. Okay. I'm going to play it. Okay. And I'm actually going to, can I play the whole thing? Like,
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I don't want to
Sure.
waste your time, you
No,
rock
no.
stars. Okay. So
wanna-
this is like a world premiere.
Mhm.
They're not playing this in Australia, are they?
No.
Not yet.
Would they play it tomorrow or would they play it yesterday?
That's right. they play it backwards, upside down. Okay. Here we go.
I had a dusty room without a view for almost 10 years in Limbo Town. And I always thought that I could leave the minute I didn't feel like sticking around. But I got news for me, as far as I can see. Hell isn't always underground. And I got news for me, this devil has no key. I'll have to jimmy my way out of Limbo Town.
somebody's ripping it to MP3, I don't want to talk over it. Okay, it's gonna be.
That's very considerate.
I know it would piss me off here. Okay, it sounds great. I have a couple of questions, and I will say, maybe because this band's on my mind. I know we talked about Kids in the Hall earlier, but I feel like there's a little shadowy man on a shadowy planet in there.
In that guitar line.
Yeah,
I was just hearing it. I don't think I've listened to it in headphones. And it was like very swirly.
What's that called?
The panning of the guitars. Yeah, it's nice big.
Well, it's
big
funny
sound.
too because I can hear I can just hear the era, predilections I have, like give me one more beer, I got to get out of here. Like I would never write that now, and it's like I wrote it then, and it's like I remember that sense of urgency, like we got to do something, and here we are, at the end of the night. And it's like, it's funny because I heard somebody tell me about somebody interviewing Bob Dylan and talking about writing songs like the freewheeling era. And he was like, I can't do that anymore. Like, I don't know. I had a window where that was coming through me. And then he said, you try and write that. That's hard, right?
Yeah, no.
And I remember Dylan Parker when he was playing bass with us. I can't remember. Maybe it was around the Sordid Fiction. No, probably after Sordid Fiction. But anyway, he said, what would be cool? You should write like Shakespeare 2.0. And I was like, yeah, no pressure. I'll just whip that off.
Evan Dando did that, I think. I feel like it's a shame
that,
about Ray. When I listen to It's a Shame About Ray,
Oh.
it reminds me of Shakespeare My Butt. Like it sounds like, did he just listen to it, Shakespeare My Butt?
That's funny because when I hear that, I can hear the Hoodoo Gurus, which I was listening to at the time, right? I'm like, I always think like it's really obvious who I'm nicking, But then you talk to people and they go, well, what? Oh, that doesn't sound like that.
I didn't hear any slightly punkier Tears for Fears, though. I think that had been chased away. That had been chased away at that point.
I didn't say punkier. I said harder edge.
Harder edge?
There was nothing punky about it. But.
So did you change anything from when you wrote it in the early 90s to when you recorded it in 2025?
It's slightly longer now. Probably a bit slower.
Yeah, the lead guitar part is longer.
Yeah,
because we're digging that Mike's vibe.
But the lyrics are intact. Like did you?
Yeah, lyrics are. There's not a single change on that.
I dig it. Yeah, I dig it. And
I got one of the other ones that's coming out. One of the other songs that's called "Righteous" has a lyric in it, saying "just be somewhere near a phone," and I'm just like, oh,
that's right.
Kids today, they were like, what does that mean? What's he talking about?
That's maybe
how near could I be?
How far away from a phone can I ever get?
That is funny.
Yeah.
When you say coming out, what do you mean? Like, so what are the plans for?
This will be there's a vinyl reissue of Shakespeare My Butt coming out, the 35th anniversary edition, and there will be a bonus EP called the Limbo Town Revisited, and it will have 3 songs.
And you say you don't have a plan. It sounds like you got plans.
Well, back then we didn't have a plan. Now we're all grown ups, and what would we do without our plans, right?
Right.
But it will have Another Year in Limbo Town, a song called Righteous, and a song called Marrow and Bone that was also on the Kitchen Tapes, and is finally seeing the light of day. And I think that's long overdue. That's a really good song. So
yeah, it's funny because Dave, again, back to this idea that something's old, and Dave has an association with Marrow and Bone, and just like, really? We're going to record, really? And I'm like, dude, I play that at solo shows, and people go like, when are you going to record that?
Right.
If you're not attached to it and don't have some kind of emotional damage, from the era.
The EP will also have the demo recordings that Andy Koyama recorded of Salesman, Cheats and Liars and Eternal Fatalist at Comfort
Two
Sound.
Amazing songs.
Yeah. So they
Big
and
CFNY
slightly
songs
fun
too.
because they're slightly different. The vocal vamping and the harmonica solo, like they're different. They're different, right? So like that'll be fun for people.
I think it was a sort of proof of concept for the what became Shakespeare My Butt. They recorded the drums at Comfort Sound, and the overdubs were done at Filmhouse and in the Foley booth. I mean, I remember going to the Foley booth for the first time to play that
Into the
harmonica solo on on Salesman at the end, which is different from the one that ended up. But it's good.
I think that's the first Lowest of the Low song I ever heard was Salesman. It's hard to remember back then because it was on the radio, but I think so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the other thing that's in the, I drew a little map for the EP vinyl that's sliding in there along with the original record, and it's just a map of all the sort of landmarks of the time. So it's it looks a bit graphic novel-y, but it's like a little map.
I love that shit.
Follow
over Johnny Dover Court. We got a new map coming. I think that's cool. I think that's right. But here's what the big question, I know I've asked you this in the past, but when I listen to my 90s Canadian alt-rock bands, and there are many I loved, but of course I loved you guys, almost to a T, I can envision in my head the video I would see on Much Music. Like I feel like for every single one of them, I feel I can see the video in my mind's eye that I would watch, because in the early 90s I watched a lot of Much Music. But can't do it with Shakespeare My Butt. Like I can't close my eyes and, that iconic video for Bleed a Little While Tonight, or that great video for Subversives or whatever.
Yeah, it's just part of the, again, remember I was saying, like, I always feel like we're in the industry, but we're not of the industry. We're in the society at large. We're not of the society at large. It's like there's a lot of things asked of, there's more things asked of you now than there was then. But I mean, I remember us thinking that it was weird that you had to have some kind of performance film for your music, right? It's like we make music, we don't make. So
this is like
movies.
Your punk ethos.
Yeah, we just didn't want to we didn't want
to play the game.
We sort of felt like it was selling shoes. It was a thing. And that said, there's lots of people who made very artful videos that were pieces of art in their own right, but most of them weren't. Most of them were stupid, trailers for a movie, right? And we didn't want to do that. And we thought, that our bread and butter was made on stage live. So we made a couple of live videos that went out. CBC shot a couple of those. And, and now it's worse, because now it's like anytime you do anything, they're like, well, can I have a 15-second clip of you, saying something about, and it's like, well, of course you can. And of course we need to do that stuff. But it's like, it all is really tangential to the idea. I would love to live in a world where if you're a musician and a songwriter, you make music and the music speaks for itself.
Well, of course. But you talked about how the goal originally was to get the demos for Shakespeare My Butt and then have a big label, release it, basically. This was the initial goal, right? So I just wonder if you had any regrets at all, because what Much Music did, you can talk to Mo Berg about this. He'll be like, yeah, like from sea to from the Atlantic to the Pacific, Canadians you'll be in their living room, and it's a way to reach people. So yeah, CFNY is playing a lot of Lowest of the Low, a lot. But imagine Much Music playing Lowest of the Low and all the new ears that would discover the band. Like, any regrets, I wonder? I'm not beating you up 35 years later. Where the hell are my Much Music videos?
I have zero regrets. And the only regrets I do have are when we've sort of varied from that formula and wound up like, I have a few regrets of us making Hallucigenia on Universal, because I feel like, our producer was not a great fit for us. There were things that they were asking us to do on Universal the minute we got there that we hadn't done for Shakespeare and wouldn't have done for Shakespeare. And, it's this thing that you run into, which is that, I think if you're not in an art form, like corporations of all complexions do this, which is that they find something that they like and that works, and then they immediately need to put a stamp on it. So they start to change it and tell you to do this or tell you to do that. And it's like, I remember when we started working with Universal, they wanted to re-release Shakespeare My Butt. And it was like, we just come off 2 years of touring this. And they were like, there's people in Timmins that haven't seen it. And, and at the point I was like, and again, with all due respect to the people of Timmins, I'm like, I don't give a shit about the people in Timmins. Like, we have an audience that's been following us for 2 years that, they want new music and they deserve new music, and we have it. Like, Let's just move on. And then the people in Timmins can jump on for this one. And, like, what we don't need to do, if you want to destroy our band, then put us out for another year and a half doing Shakespeare My Butt, So I think that's the problem, is that's what you get involved with, because those people don't care about the art that you're making. They care about the fact that your art might be able to make, all of us money. And it's like, that's important, but it's not.
It's really good that you didn't end up with a big label for Shakespeare and re-record it, because honestly, at the time you guys were managing to blow up just by playing shows and playing lots of shows, and more people were coming all the time. 1991 was a very long year waiting for that album to come out, and it came out in December. And if you had used that as a demo and then gone and re-recorded it, it would have been like another year before that album came out. We'd have been talking about the end of 1992, by which point it would have just all turned into just
well, and it also falls into that category. I have a friend I was in a band with, and we were listening to Billy Bragg, and he's not really a Billy Bragg fan, and it was early Billy Bragg, and he was like, well, like, he can't sing, and I'm like, I know. And he's like, he can't play the guitar, and I'm like, I know. It's like, he knows. It's like, that's not what he does this, right? And it's like, if you cleaned it up, and if you fixed all the quote wrong things, and you polished it up, like if we had polished up Shakespeare My Butt and made it a different thing, like, it wouldn't have made it a better record. It's like, it is what it is. And it's partially the charm is because it's the way it is. And because we were a ragtag bunch of guys that didn't give a shit about niceties. And we went and put a ferocious live show on, and you never knew what was going to happen. And it was fun, like.
Yeah, no regrets, no notes from yours truly, okay? Don't touch a damn thing there. I'm glad it all worked out as it should here. So here's my plan.
Oh, I do have some regrets, Mike. My regrets are to the people in my personal life who I was shitty to and an asshole to because I was so angry about the industry part of my, so that's an added thing, is that the industry made me, I feel like the industry helped me develop a substance abuse problem. And I took that out on the people, I couldn't get to the people, the CEOs, but I could get to my friends and relatives, and, so they've unfortunately paid the price for some of that anger. But
and when did that dissipate in your life?
Well, like getting off that label, breaking up the band. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm being, like, many things went into breaking up Lowest of the Low, but I think making the mistake of trying to be on Universal and do the Dog and Pony show with them was the final, straw. And I think that blew up the band. And then, I think I feel like I coursed through the rest of the 90s, developing or riding a substance abuse problem like a lot of my friends. And I lost a couple of friends during the 90s, and I came out of it at the end of the 90s, pulled the plane off the runway and it got better. But I think it was just, I had no way to know how to regulate myself and how to deal with feelings I wasn't enjoying, No,
and I appreciate your candor. I think sometimes we think it's all, I was gonna say it's all rosy, but then you'll think it's rosy and gray here. So okay, so
what did I say, Mike? What did I say in that song?
I'll never forget you two gentlemen playing. I think it was like TMLX 3. I'm losing track here, but it was, I think, the third Toronto Mike listener experience at Great Lakes Brewery, and that Ron, you played that song because the listenership would hear that song and know the night was over, basically. That's why Miriam's worried. She's going to leave after the fifth song. She's out of here, okay?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen here. But you changed the lyrics. Like, I'll never forget. I'm sitting, it was my birthday too, as I recall. And it was, I want to take a streetcar downtown, listen to Toronto Mike and wander around, drink some Great Lakes from a tin. So
there you go.
Much love to you both. That was an amazing.
And they
night.
say I don't play the game.
No, listen, you play the game here.
I invented the game.
If Ron was still surly and on drugs, he would never have done that.
Yeah, well, listen, I love both Rons. They're both.
All you had to do is tell me to do something that you didn't want me to do, and then I would, because I'm a contrarian, I would do the thing that you didn't want me to do.
Well, I'm the father of four. That's how I operate by default. That's how I get shit done around here. So I'm going to thank some partners for making this happen, because I am also a big sellout here. So I'm going to thank some partners, and then I'm going to do something that I hope you guys are cool with. It's going to be like a rapid fire thing. Ooh. And then there is another FOTM that put out a new song that Ron's involved with, and I would love to play a little bit. I promised Cam Carpenter I'd play a little bit, because it's good, and I want to ask you about that at the very end before we say goodbye. But I have in my freezer upstairs a frozen lasagna for you from Palma Pasta. How does that sound? Woohoo! That's why you're here, right? That's why I can keep
come for the pasta.
You come for the pasta. You get your beer. You got your pasta. You have your measuring tapes from Ridley Funeral Home.
Yes.
I know you probably got a drawer full of those.
Yeah, how many things do you think we got to measure? Measure our
loved
career.
ones need gifts.
I just used the one that I have at home the other day to measure some shoelaces, because you know how you can never buy good shoelaces in shoe stores. You can't get the good flat ones.
Do I ever?
Yeah. So
I
had to take the laces off my
Henry
shoes.
needs a new pair of
shake
shoes.
them and measured them up so that I could
good.
order them off the internet.
Aren't we supposed to be into Skechers slip-ins by now, or at our age?
Well, actually, that's right. No
Are they
more
a sponsor?
time shoes. Sketcher, no.
Skechers
But
slip-ins.
thank you to Ridley Funeral Home. I got nailed. I could go into this, but I don't know. But I'm going to close this episode with a song from Shakespeare My Butt. I'm just saying that right now. But the actual song from Shakespeare My Butt, not a cover.
Gasp.
Because
Disruptor.
the algorithm, Spotify particularly, I'm going to do a really quick rant on Spotify that we had a little bit of John Williams in the opening theme to Life's Undertaking, which is a podcast from Ridley Funeral Home. Brad Jones. He makes no money on this podcast, but there was a little bit of a John Williams composition, and we did this for years. And suddenly this week, Spotify is sending me these mean emails about how I've got 7 days to prove I have the license to play John Williams, or they're removing these episodes and I had to get an emergency replacement, and I'm working on doing all this. But anyway, this is
How long a segment? Like, what are you
it's
talking
just
about?
a little bit of the Imperial Death March.
Sure. Yeah.
That Darth plays when Darth Vader enters the room.
Should we hum
Hey,
it now,
Mike,
or is that going to get you in more trouble?
Yeah, you can hum it. That's what I learned. You just have to. They're not humans, right? You're just you're eluding the bots. The algorithm has to like you.
But
That's
somebody
why I
might
had a
wanna-
problem with Rosie and Gray.
Somebody might want to tell Spotify that I bought, is it Stravinsky? What's Rites of Spring? Who? Stravinsky. So I bought the Stravinsky Rites of Spring. In the middle of it somewhere, there's a piece that starts to go dun 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 dun, and I was like,
John
"Are
Williams
you
stole
kidding me?
Oh.
Really?
Totally ripped."
Is that right?
Oh, I don't know. If you ever listen to Holst's The Planets, you'll hear a lot of Star Wars music in there.
Wow.
Yeah,
ripped,
John
man.
Williams. I mean,
His
that's a whole-
son
I'm not
sings
here-
for Toto. Do you know that?
I'm not here to trash John.
So I hope
Williams.
John Williams is getting a message
Yeah.
from Spotify as well.
Yeah, from
Wow.
Stravinsky's
Stravinsky
lawyers.
called.
You know what? Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's the
Yeah.
real talk you guys are here
Yeah.
for here. But Life's Undertaking, it's a great podcast. I mentioned you had a drawer full of measuring tapes from Ridley Funeral Home. I'm sure you have a drawer full of old cables, old phones, old devices, old, I don't know, laptops, possibly, maybe.
I do.
If you do, I'm
Yeah.
waiting for that
Where could we take
affirmation. Don't you dare throw it in the garbage, Ron,
No,
because
that would be terrible.
those chemicals end up at our landfill. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca and put in your postal code and find out where you can drop it off to be properly recycled. Recyclemyelectronics.ca.
That's an excellent service. That really is, because battery disposal is very important too. Don't be throwing those out.
Don't be throwing those out.
No.
All the tips are here.
It's
All
our
the tips are
groundwater.
here. And last but not least, I would love to tell you about Nick Iones' podcast. It's called Building Toronto Skyline, and we got a new episode recording on Friday morning. He also does a little show with me called Mike and Nick, and that is available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you guys don't want to do this, that's cool, because sometimes I feel I say, give me an inch, and then I take a mile. This is sort of how I'm wired over here. But
Your mic, though.
what if this is what I want to do. I want to name the song on Shakespeare My Butt, and you each get to make one succinct statement. You just one reaction from each of you, then I go name the next one. This won't take very long at all. Like if I said to you, 4 o'clock stop, and then Ron, you get to make one statement about the song 4 o'clock stop, and then Lawrence gets to make a statement about the song 4
About
o'clock
the same
stop.
song?
Yeah, and then I'll say, so long, Bernie, and you'll do the same thing. And we'll do that 17 frickin' times. Like, what if I say it now? I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to see if you say anything. 4 o'clock stop.
A test of wills.
Alex was nice.
Okay. See, yeah, as rapid as you want. You can go longer than that or shorter, whatever you want. So long, Bernie.
Oh, things are not as we suspect they are.
Also not about Paul Bernardo.
Oh, good point.
Just about the only blues.
Bolsheviks like to drink.
Yeah. I once ripped off the title.
How so?
I
allowed
wrote
you
a
follow?
song. I wrote a song called the Edwin Aldrin Blues, and it wasn't really a blues song, but I just, I thought, well, if Ron can write a non-blues song and describe it as such, I'm going to do the same thing.
Salesmen, cheats, and liars.
It's not what you think it is, Molson Canadian.
Yeah. Sorry. So nice we recorded it twice.
Oh.
Rosie and Gray.
Oh.
I was there the second time you played it.
That was my response.
I was there the second time you played it, and it was at the Traditions Room. What was the one down? No, wait. Is
That
that
traditions was
downstairs from the Cabana, right? And at the show, people were telling me, because they were so excited that you had a new song. This was in the time we were discussing. They're like, you won't believe the song he has. It was about Rosie and something, and they'd heard it and they thought it was great. And I guess I'd missed that gig, but yeah. So I was there. The
And it
second
always
time you
had
played it,
the long instrumental at the beginning, right?
Yeah, I mean, you were just playing solo when I saw you do it. I can't remember, but yeah, that was another one of those anti-radio things. It's like, well, you can't have a song that doesn't.
Well, not to get too in the weeds over this, but like our manager at the time, we always talk about how unmanageable we were. he was like, very reasonably saying, like, the guitar plays it and then the harmonica plays it. Like, can't we just cut one of those out? And we're like, no.
And
like,
then we did.
Like, well, maybe they won't play it on the radio. And we're like, well, then fuck the radio. Like, it's like,
maybe one
what?
day a podcaster will use it so we could talk over the instrumental.
We did chop the instrumental intro in half when we played it on CBS TV, though.
That's true.
In New York. So,
well,
and I have a version that's different. I have a different version of that song.
Oh yeah, that's a very secret recording. No, nobody's heard that because that was you did that.
I got all the goods
with Garden Songs. You recorded Rose and Grey, right?
But I missed the long intro. Yeah. Like I appreciated it, but I missed.
Yeah,
I missed.
Just start right. He just starts right in because
Also, you can't fuck with these songs. Like it has to be the way you heard it on when you were like, when you're 6. How old am I in 91? Hold on, I'm doing some quick math here. When you're 17 years old and you soak it in over and over again, that's the way it has to be forevermore. You can't fuck with that.
Oh man, you should have seen when we brought a piano out, or when we were putting piano in Bleed a Little While Tonight. I thought the villagers were going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's.
I still like that version, but you're right. What Mike's saying is very true.
It's not safe to play.
No.
Don't mess with it. Not a note. Kind of the lonely one.
Oh, not on the cassette.
Oh, a good, a nice homage to my friend Ken.
Yeah.
Eternal Fatalist. That got a lot of airplay, man.
A lot of people still think it's Life's a Bitch for the Eternal Fatalist, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah. It absolutely is not.
Yeah. That's like the Moni for the Hand of Magdalena.
Aww.
Oh, that's just a rip of Spanish Bombs, but sure.
Part of the unofficial Spanish Civil War trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, aren't they in a museum or something?
The Spanish Civil War Virtual Museum. There's a cultural wing, and there's 3 bands in there. It's like Manic Street Preachers, The Clash, and The Lowest of the Low.
Not bad company.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, sorry. Were you done there with your for the Hand of Magdalene? Okay.
Yeah.
Subversives. Which I sing. I find myself singing. Yeah. I know I am interrupting you guys from Lowest Low, but I do find myself singing that song out loud as I just go about my day. It just comes out.
Oh.
Recorded live in 2 takes in a Foley booth.
Mm-hmm. And I wrote that because I had this weird situation in which I was still in the relationship that broke up very shortly after that, and my partner went to New York, and for some reason I had this dream. That the plane was going to go down or something, and it was very visceral, and I couldn't shake it when I woke up, and then it made me sort of take stock of like what happens. So that's where that came from.
And then you broke up with her?
Yeah. And well, the whole point was like I got a song out of it. So that's the songwriter's, morality. I got a good song out of it.
Yeah.
Bleed a Little While Tonight.
Wow. Test of wills.
Alex is very nice.
Well, I feel like there's follow up there. Okay, so that jam, that's a big one. I think Bleed a Little While Tonight. Like I think that's just a gorgeous song. So,
thanks, man.
That's a good one as well. Yeah, I had that same reaction in 1990 when I first heard it. I was like, that's a good one.
Got this new song.
You won't believe it.
Something about bleeding.
Something about damning circumstances.
Yeah, it's great. The harmonies are great too. Bloodline. You did not write this song, Ron Hawkins.
No, but I remember when Steve did, and I was pretty impressed because, as I say, we both came out of Popular Front writing kind of making questionable choices, and and Steve came up with this, and I was like, wow, that's really a great tune, and it made the leap.
It's a great tune. Also on the kitchen tapes.
St. Brendan's Way.
Oh,
I was reading a book called Paddy's Lament, and speaking of Future Bakery, I guess it was one of the rare moments I wasn't sitting at a table with Lawrence Nichols. I was sitting in the window seat reading Paddy's Lament, which is where St. Brendan's Way came from. And a person pulled up on a bike, and that person became my girlfriend and is my friend Kate from Black Monday. I saw her at a window. I was like, oh, she's cute. And then she came in, and I was reading this book, and then about 10 minutes later, she tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, aren't you in that band? I saw you guys at Traditions, with her friend Frankie. And so that's a nice reminder of that.
When I was in high school for a project, I had to write a short play about St. Brendan. And he was not one of the better known saints as far as I knew. But when I met Ron and discovered he'd written a song about St. Brendan, whose story I knew pretty well, I was very, very impressed, very blown away.
I don't remember you correcting me on anything.
I didn't correct you on anything.
Very-
Your song had fewer sea monsters and lightsaber duels than my play had, but
Oh boy.
but it was it was good.
All right, the song I refer to as Letter.
Letter. Well, there you go. Another one for the Spanish Civil War museum.
Yeah.
I was kind of obsessed with that time in history just because I really think it speaks volumes about supporting socialism. And when you don't support socialism, what you get is World War War II, and possibly what we're about to go through now.
Do you just call it Letter because you don't like to mispronounce the name of a Spanish city?
100%.
Okay, fair enough.
It's safer that way.
We don't
Okay.
need to go that way.
Under the Carlaw Bridge.
Aw.
That also reminds me of Ken from Social Insecurity. We used to walk past the Carlisle Bridge to this little coffee shop, and we used to drink tea. Social Insecurity was a teetotaling straight edge band, so we drank a lot of tea and we ate a lot of butter tarts.
I love butter tarts.
Was that Dave's influence, the butter tarts?
No, that was before Dave came.
But with or without raisins, this is the debate.
What do you got,
Either
man?
or.
We were an all access
Okay.
band.
But do you have a preference?
No, I like a pecan tart too. So
Yeah.
give me whatever you got. Almonds. What do they stick in there? Almonds.
I like the raisins. Yeah,
I if I have a choice, I want raisins. In
I
my
think so.
Butter
Yeah.
tarts.
I'm okay without, but yeah, raisins, they add a little something.
What do you say about Under the Carlaw Bridge, Lawrence?
That's a big bridge, and it goes in two directions. And I was a little bit confused as to where, when I tried to do the
Which
tour.
one is he talking
I was
about?
like, wait a minute, where were they standing? Somewhere. When he says somewhere under the Carlisle Bridge, you see why, because it could be anywhere. Like it could be over there, it could be over there. It's a big
don't
bridge.
know where we're gonna
It's a
stand.
big intersection there.
The Taming of Carolyn.
Oh, there you go. That's about. That's also about the person I was in a relationship before Shakespeare My Butt, and how I watched her family sort of minimize her. She was quite an amazing person, and watching her family sort of take her down a peg, and it was also funny because I said once to the band, I said, "Oh, it's funny that we have that record Shakespeare My Butt, and then there's clearly a song that references Shakespeare." And then Dave said, "What song?" And I said, "Taming of Carolyn." And I was like, "Taming of the Shoe," and he's like, "Oh shit!" It's like so decades had gone by, and I didn't make that realization either. So there you go.
There was a time when the band reformed in 2000.
Is this when the Elliot Lefko brought you back? Yeah.
Yeah. And so they'd been rehearsing, and then I came because I was going to jump up on a few songs 250 times or whatever. But I remember when you played the Taming of Carolyn, it was the first time in years and years and years I'd heard it, and they'd been practicing it, but they were doing it slightly differently. They started it just with Ron playing it on guitar, and then they accidentally skipped a whole chunk of the song when the whole band dropped it, and none of them had noticed. And I had to be, of course, the guy going, but what about the second half of the first verse? And everyone looked at me blankly like,
Said, what a nerd.
yeah, right. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Gossip Talking Blues.
Oh, that's funny because I think that's along with I was talking about walking around with a notebook in my pocket and the romance of it all, and I often say I felt like I was the protagonist in the film of my life, kind of, and sort of in that ambiance, how could you not write songs, right? But what also comes with that is this overinflated idea that the world is looking at you, or that everybody's paying attention. Nobody's paying attention, but I wrote that song because it was sort of thinking that everybody's talking about us, and they weren't, to my knowledge.
We haven't played that one in a while. It's going to be good to play that one again. Yeah.
Let's hope we play it at the right speed.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to play.
Let me predict, it'll be the penultimate jam.
I think so.
When people buy
Yeah.
tickets to see Lo
Yeah.
Solo on this tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miriam will already be at home with her feet up.
Oh yeah, she's there for 5 songs.
Yeah. She's there for 5 songs.
Miriam has a nickname in the TMU, the Toronto Mike's Universe, and her nickname is Lieve Famke, which I believe is Dutch for sweetie or sweetie pie or something like that.
Oh.
So shout out Lieve Famke on stage, and that's
Or is
Miriam.
it Dutch for "I'm out of here"?
That's for Rosie and Gray.
Yeah.
It's like Pavlov's dog. Her and Juan, her lovely husband, will be out of here. She comes to all the events. She was there that night. You guys performed at Great Lakes Breweries.
And then she left, of course, because
yeah, well, that's like Pavlov's dog. All right, last song. Henry needs a new pair of shoes.
Yes.
Almost sang, and then I caught myself. Okay.
So yeah, that one is just about a guy I met. Like, again, sort of just writing about real characters in my life. I used to write songs for this record, sitting in the park, Riverdale Park, looking over the Don Valley to the city I would eventually move to. But this guy would come up every day and ask me for money, and he asked for a very specific amount, like 33 cents or something, and he would get actually kind of angry if you gave him 50 cents or what. Like, he for some reason was fixated on this amount. Anyway, his shoes were, I remember just looking down, and it was like, no matter what the weather was, it was like gaff tape holding the shoes together, and thinking, wow, that guy, maybe his name's Henry, really needs a new pair of shoes.
His name wasn't Henry, but maybe sometimes art improves upon life.
Yeah. Maybe he had a worse name than Henry.
Maybe. Yeah.
Shout out to Art Bergman.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Art imitates life.
Yes.
Okay. You can never shout out Art Bergman enough. Okay. I'm playing a song not by Lows to the Low, just a little bit here.
You can hold it with the best of them, or you can sell it cheap like heroin. Hit the ground and then get up again. Giving out another turn inside, inconceivable at any time. There's really nowhere left to deify. Hey, when did they take it all away? Was it as easy as the time it takes? When did they take it all away?
This is Take It All by Elephants and Stars. Of course, Manfred Sittman is a beloved FOTM. Who produced this song? Do you know Ron Hawkins?
I think Ron Hawkins produced it.
So I knew you were coming in, and this is super fresh.
Is this his new single?
Yep, this
Oh,
is his
sweet.
new single, Take
Sounds
It All.
great.
Yeah.
Manfred's awesome. He writes really, really good songs. He's a
Yeah, I
really,
think
really-
Manfred, I hold Manfred and Vince Nicholson from Sour Landslide up as like probably the two best melody writers I've ever met. Like, they just have this magic. And prolific. Holy crap, the two of them are insanely prolific. Like,
Well, great job producing this. I
Thank
know he's worked with you in the past, right?
Where'd you do this? Was this Union?
we did it at Union Sound and my place, yeah.
We did our recording last year in Union Sound, which was recently revealed to be where Rush have been holed up for the last year, rehearsing their upcoming tour.
Okay.
So shout out to them. That's a really, really good studio. If you want to go and record stuff, go to Union Sound Company. They're amazing.
And where should people go if they're interested in catching you guys on this 35th anniversary of Shakespeare My Butt tour?
Well, they can come and see us, at our sold-out show in Kingston.
Or our sold out show in
Yeah.
So is there any tickets
we'll be-
available anywhere?
Tickets are still available in Ottawa on May 2nd. And tickets are still...
It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, there's still a few tickets available for May 8th at the Danforth Music Hall. May 9th is sold out. And then Hamilton and Guelph are also sold out.
Oh, yeah, my buddy Ian Service, I was chatting with him earlier, and he
Yeah.
says he's seeing you in Guelph.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Yeah,
And we have this has been organized so that there's a spring jaunt and there's a fall jaunt in November, and then there will be a few summer shows. There's a show in Aurora. There's a show in Huntsville.
Yeah, there might still be a few tickets left for June 20th in Aurora at Aurora Town Hall Aurora Town Square. Town Square. Yes.
But so for those people who miss us in the spring, there's going to be November. So there's
Yeah,
gonna be-
November there will be more announcements. Will be coming very soon.
And for those of Buffalonians that listen to Toronto Mike, we won't be crossing the border, but we have set up a situation at a venue very close to the border that we feel people from the States could easily jump across the border to see us. if they would like.
Sorry about that.
Because we're fielding a lot of, there's a lot of I'd love to clear up a lot of misgivings about.
Well, you know what? This song, I'm bringing it down actually just for a moment here because I had this chat with the Andrew Scott from Sloan, and then talked to Chris Murphy and Jay Ferguson about this from Sloan. But and then we did last time you were here. I think we touched upon this if I am remembering correctly. But
to clarify, because we're getting a lot of like last week there was a person who posted like, oh, please come to Buffalo. And then somebody answered, they're not coming to Buffalo. He hates America. And I was like, and I said, well, to clarify the situation, yes, there's an element of the administration. There's also some very real things on the ground, which is that it costs money. It costs money for us to get a visa to cross the border, and it's quite expensive. And if we hit the border, assuming that there's a very, very large chance they're going to see our socials and whatever and turn us around, and we're going to flush all that money down and spend all that time for nothing, that's a major part of it. The other part of it is, of course, a crazy hyperbolic idea that maybe we get detained or something is a real hassle because of who we are. That's a thing too. But it's, also this visa thing is huge, right? Like it just doesn't make any sense because there's so many reasons in which they might turn us around. Because we, once and for all, we consider the good people of America to be hostages to this administration. So it's not, if there was a way that we could be flown in under cover of darkness and play all of our shows, we certainly would do it. Like,
and when American bands come to Toronto, they don't deal with the same.
No, they don't.
I don't think so. No, because we had some American friends come up and play with us, and we told them, "Oh, you got to get your work visa." And then they inquired at their end and said, "We're told there's no work visa. You can just come to Canada with." If you have a copy of the poster advertising your show, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, come on in."
Yeah, I've heard this. It's not a two-way street. It's very difficult for Canadians.
And unfortunately, it's just gotten a little more expensive and a little more difficult. They want 10 months lead time before you do the show. That's how long it takes to process. So here, you pay to get a visa. They want to take 10 months. And if you want it to be, say, 3 months instead of 10 months, you have to pay them almost $4,000 just to apply. And then they can say no. And then even if they say yes, when you get to the border, they can say no.
At their discretion, right?
Yeah, and that's,
even if they say yes, we've had situations in which we've paid, we've expedited, and they still don't process it in time. And the situation is like, well, and one time it was processed the day after we were supposed to play. Yeah. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. But, but we're going to get as close. We do miss those people. And I miss our trips to Buffalo because it's a really, really, really great town. And we always have an amazing time there. And the people there are great, so we're going to get as close to them as we possibly can in the fall and play a show. So hopefully they can come. We'll see.
Well, I'm honored you guys came here today. Always love our chats. Love the band. Long may you run. Shout out to Neil Young. And congrats on 35 years since Shakespeare My Butt. What a fucking great album that is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Amazing. And
thanks for having us back. Yeah.
Like seeing old friends here. Yeah. We got to take our photo by Toronto Tree. Don't leave without the lasagna. Yep. And Spotify can bite me. I am playing the Shakespeare My Butt version of Rosie and Gray.
With our permission.
You know what? I would say if you love Toronto Mike, there are so many places you can access Toronto Mike. XML is a open source schema. No one owns XML. This podcast there's so many apps you can use that won't have such strict rules regarding, licensing of music and stuff. So listen to Toronto Mike with one of those, like Podcast Addict or
You know what runs in my head when I hear the word Spotify? Dun, 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 dun.
Is that Stravinsky? And that brings us to the end of our 1,882nd show. Oh, I'm playing the Alma Combo, but not like musically. I should word it differently. I'm not playing the Alma Combo. I am headlining at the Alma Combo on May 21st.
Sweet.
Like a one-man show. I know Lawrence is like, what are you doing? You're singing? I'm not singing, I promise. But I crafted a one-man show, and
Hamlet?
Rob Pruce is my...
Gonna do tricks with the...
It is, it's coming together, and I do have some musical elements, but I have Rob Pruce on keyboards. He's like my Paul Schaefer. He'll be on stage with me. But this is all coming together, so people can go to torontomike.com and click Elmo Gig at the top, and then hopefully buy a ticket or two, so I'm not playing to Ron's ex-girlfriend, or whoever you played to that time. So Elma Combo, May 21st, that is happening. Much love to all who made this possible. Again, that's Great Lakes Brewery. Shout out to Fabian from The Only. Palma Pasta. I've got a lasagna for these fine gentlemen. Nick Ienes. Nick, I'll see you Friday. RecycleMyElectronics.ca and Ridley Funeral Home. We have a new theme for Life's Undertaking. See you all tomorrow when... Do you guys remember stargazing in the Toronto Star with Rita Zekas? You guys remember this? Rita Zekas? So Rita Zekas is making her Toronto Mike debut alongside Rob Salem, who covered entertainment for the Toronto Star forever. Maybe we'll talk about Shakespeare My Butt for 90 minutes. That's tomorrow on Toronto Mike. See you all then.
Everything is rose and gray. Well, I've kissed you in France and I've kissed you in Spain. And I've kissed you in places I better not name. And I've seen the sun go down on Shakespeare.